Welcome back to the radio room. We're continuing working on the 101. Today we're going to actually get started on actually doing some real work to it. Past videos have gone over what we're going to do with it about 1,000,000 times and cleaned it up, did a lot of scrubbing with a lot of Q-tips and a lot of cotton swabs. So now we're going to get down to actually doing it. In the previous video I showed you some of the capacitors that had come in, and I'm going to start putting some of them in. I'm not going to make this video where I'm literally having every capacitor I changed gone over. I will go over removing some of them, just kind of show you the process that I'm going to use in doing them. Right now we're looking at the top of the 101. It's back outside of its case, and you'll notice there's a board missing right here. It's over on the other workbench. And I do have this one loose. I just have these sitting in here because this is where they go. I got the audio board, the blanker board right here. I had those pulled out earlier because I was going through some the capacitor kit, electrolytic capacitor kit that I got. Just kind of verifying some things. One thing I will point out is I did show you all this, and of course you can see all the scribble marks and stuff that I've put on it so far. This one covers the 101 BE and EE. So not every capacitor that came in this kit goes in the E. I think I think there's 15 extra. And of course when I get done I'll double check everything, make sure that I didn't miss anything. But I have gone through and made sure that I have all the ones that are listed here that go to this board. I did find out one thing interesting on this one. If any of y'all have worked on a 101, you've probably seen this table before. This is the board module complement. And it starts out with the 101 and goes all the way up through the 101 E, EE, EX. So you got the early 101s, the 101 late, the B early and the B late, and then the early, mid, and late F2, the E and EE, EX models. And it tells you which boards are in here. Now, the biggest thing that I have seen that has always kind of been confusing to me, so I think it takes a little bit of interpretation, is if you look down here, that's an interesting place to put a comma. You look here and it's 20,500. These are serial numbers. Gives you an idea of where you're working. So like early FT101Es is like 00001 up to 15,000. And then 15,001 up to, in this case it says 20,500. Well, then you go up to here and it says, is that supposed to be 20,501 and they put an extra 0 in there? Or is that supposed to be 205,001 and this one's supposed to be 205,000 and they missed a 0? I don't know. And I've been trying to figure that out since I got this radio and started working on it. And one of the questions I had is, see, my serial number is 190425. Okay, so I figured, well, that's higher than 20,000, so I've got to have a late. I don't think that's the way that works. I think that's literally 205,001. And every time I have found this particular table online, even when it's not straight out of the service manual, it's always been written like that, and that never really made sense to me. And of course, you know, it could have something to do with maybe Japanese put their commas in different places. I don't know. But I thought because mine was greater than 20,000, maybe I had a late model. Well, it turns out apparently I have a mid. So I'm thinking that this is supposed to be 205,000. This is supposed to be 205,001. See, the comma is always in the weird spot. The reason for that is the regulator board. If you look right here, it's PB1314A for a mid, and PB1547A for a late. I have the 1314 in this radio. So I'm thinking that's also a mid. And I believe there's one other board, also the blanker board, which is this one. And I don't think you're going to be able to read this on the camera, but it's PB1292. Well, PB1292 is in the mid. PB1582 was in the late. So I think this is actually supposed to be what they're calling a mid-production 101. And I think the comma's supposed to be over one more right there. So I've gone through and I've looked at this, and we'll take a look at kind of how I went through there and did this here in just a moment. But what I'm going to do with this radio is I had to pick a starting point. And I decided I'm going to start with the boards. I'll do the chassis probably last, even though I may reinstall these two boards as I get them done. And it may still have to pull them out to change these two. But I want to change everything on this that I've gotten in the kit first. So I decided, well, I'll just start at the back of the radio and I'll work myself forward. So I'm going to do this one, and I'll do this one, and then I'll move up to probably one of these two boards, and then move out to that way. Then I'll do the chassis. Like I said, not all this is going to be on camera, or it'd be a very, very, very long, boring video. So, but let's take a look at a couple other things. Let's go ahead and move over. I actually have this board out on the other bench right now where I do my soldering. So we'll move over to this one, and you can see that board right here. It's I don't think you guys can, I don't know if you guys can read that, but it's PB1314A, which lines up with a mid-run 101. And I have already pulled one capacitor off of it. That's mostly because I just got a new desoldering gun and wanted to play with it real quick before I started the video. Mostly because the tip of it comes sealed with solder to keep it sealed up when it's shipped. And I wanted to get that out of there and make sure it was actually going to do something real quick. It's not the desoldering gun I wanted. I'm not even sure how to pronounce the brand. Yaesu, I don't know. It's one that I pulled off of, I got off of Amazon. It's got a desoldering gun in it and a soldering iron. I probably won't use the soldering iron much. I have a Weller that I use. But when you're doing a lot of desoldering and resoldering, these come in handy. Solder Rick comes in handy, but I really wanted a gun with suction on it. These, you got one shot and it pulls off a little bit, but it's hard to get the solder around the leg when you desolder it. Anything that's kind of gone into the hole, it's hard to pull it out with that and to really clean it out. So I wanted a desoldering gun, and we're going to see how this thing works. I really wanted a Heiko until I saw the price, and that just wasn't in the budget right now. So I got this one. It's a combo soldering iron, desoldering iron, and I think I paid like $130, $150 for it. So it might last, it might not. If not, I can go back to the solder sucker wick braid and walking them out. I've done it before. When I did a 130, that was 130 capacitors I changed, and all I used was a solder sucker wick and just walking the legs out. Done it before, I can do it again. So this is the one I've already pulled out, and this actually worked quite nicely. I'll pull another one out here in just a moment, but I do want to put this one back in first. But let me explain kind of how I'm going around this. First off, I went through that list. I went through the list that I got with my kit, which is right here. And I've also printed out the parts list out of the service manual for all the EEEs, EEE, and EX101s. It's 5 pages. It's every part that's in that radio. Mostly so I could look at the electrolytic capacitors. And I compared this to what's in here, and that's how I decided, well, first off, some of these boards are old version boards in like the 101 or the 101B. So I just marked those out in black. But the way I like to do this, and I didn't go ahead and make my spreadsheet that like I've done before on some other radios, mostly because, well, it wasn't going to help me that much. When I had 130 of them I did in the last radio, it really helped out because I was just checking them off as I went. But this got a little confusing, making sure I had the right ones and the right board, and just kind of interpreting everything. But let's see here. Right now I've got the regulator board on the holder here. So let me find that board in the parts list. So here's the parts list for that, and I actually need the next page because it goes to the next page for the electrolytics. And I've got some doubles in here as well. So let's see. This will be the page we want right here. So electrolytics. Of the ones that came in the kit, we're going to have 13, 14, 16, 11, and 12. So 5 capacitors that came in the kit. The other 2 that are here, I'm probably going to have to go ahead and order. I didn't realize they weren't in the kit, but they're 150 and 250 working volt ones, both at 22 microfarads. So I'll have to get those at some point. We're going to go ahead and change all the ones in the kit. They're all basically what I call lower voltage. I mean, the highest voltage is 50 working volts. But we're going to do those. So in order to find out which one I'm working on, because I don't know if you guys can tell, but there are no numbers on that board. So what I'm doing is I pulled up the service manual on my computer, and I can go and look at each one. So the one that I've pulled out, which is right here, let me see, I got 2 things going on with my camera right now. So, and now my computer's doing other things. Okay, anyhow, sorry about that. Right here, the one that I already have pulled out is going to be this one right here. Let me get this so you guys can see this a little bit better. Right here, C16. Now, I have looked at the capacitor, and it's 100 microfarad at 16. And which capacitor did I say that was? Let me check this real quick. C16. So C16, it's 100 microfarad at 16. So I know I pulled out the same one. It does match this. It matches the diagram. Now what I did here is this is the whole kit. I've kind of separated it into baggies. So this one right here is the regulator board. I've got the number 1314, which I can verify on here, which is right there. And then inside of there, this is every capacitor we're going to put on here. I've got C16 right there. Now this one right here, I didn't label all of them, but these are all my 1000 microfarad at 35. That's what I'm putting in there. These might be 16 volt. I have 35 volt. They're still going to fit. I mean, these are no bigger than anything that's on there. In fact, they're actually a little smaller. But I can go through and use that diagram that I just showed you on the computer and what we have right here. So, and remember, these are electrolytic. capacitors. So here's the new one. I'm going to verify it as well before I put it in. 100 microfarad, and this one's at 50 volts, so that exceeds the working volt of this one. As long as the capacitance is the same, we're going to go with it. Now the old one was sitting in like this. In electrolytics, you got to be very careful to make sure you put them in the exact same direction. This one's got a black stripe on it. That is our negative side. On the new one, it's this gray stripe, but it still has a negative sign right there. That negative leg has to go in the same spot. You can't turn this around or you're going to have a bad day down the road. You put one of these in backwards, it's either not going to work right or it's going to go pop. And I know which way I pulled this one out of here. So I'm just going to slide it in the same direction. As soon as I get the holes to line up. Just going to set it down in there. I'm not going to push it down too hard. The legs, the holes are spread just a little bit more than a leg. So I'm just going to pull it down in there gently. I don't have to seat it all the way down on the board. I'm just going to get it out there because I don't want to spread the legs too hard right at the base of the capacitor. Now it's sticking through there and I can solder it. So that one's soldered in there. I'm going to go ahead and trim the legs. Just going to come down right about to the top of where the solder dome is, or pyramid, or whatever you want to call it. And that one's now in there. And you can see there's going to be a lot more room on this board when I'm done. Newer capacitors are smaller than the older ones, and this is actually a higher voltage one by more than 2, a factor of 2. So let's find out what other ones we're going to pull. We do have these 4. They're all 1,000 microfarad at 35 volts, which is going to be, in this case, the 13, 14 are both 16 working volt, and 11 and 12 are both 25 working volt. In the kit, they're all 25 working volt. And in this case, I actually got 35. So we put a little bit higher voltage in there. That's not going to hurt anything. It's still the same capacitance. It's just going to have a higher voltage rating, which might make it last longer. It's not going to be, maybe it doesn't heat up as much. And heat's really what kills capacitors. So let's see if we can find these. I'm going to go ahead and look over here. And we are going to go to, let's see here. So I said 11 and 12, right? Or yeah, 11 and 12, 13 and 14 are all the thousands. So we've got these two and these two. These right here are all like the 150 and 250 working volt. So that means we're going to go to here and here, and I'm just going to kind of look in. Yeah, it's 1,000 microfarad at 25. These over here are a little harder to see, but they're 16 volt. I know that. Let me see if I can find the 1,000 microfarads. So, yep, these, and or these 4 right here are the ones that we're going to change. And here's our new ones. So let's go ahead and take a look. First off, I got stripes facing this way, and these stripes are facing that way. I'm just going to do one at a time. Don't get ahead of yourself. Don't start stripping a whole bunch of stuff off the board unless you're very confident on which way it goes back. So just do one at a time. So we're going to go to this one. Now, I've got to try and find out where this one is on the board on the back side. Sometimes this gets a little fun. So I'd really like to unsolder the right ones. It feels as if it's running that way, so it's probably going to be these two right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat these up and I'm going to get these legs standing straight up. They bent the legs over. Find a good tool for that. This one ought to work. Clean up my soldering iron. Retin it. And we're going to go in there and heat this up. I'm going to raise that board up like that. And then I'm going to raise this pin up like that. That should be able to let me get my desoldering gun on there. And the reason why they did this is probably just to hold it in there so they could get it soldered. Alright, let my soldering iron warm, or desoldering gun warm up a little bit real quick. It's coming up to temperature. I got it set at 716 degrees. And mostly because that's the lowest setting for this, and I think 716 degrees is probably going to be sufficient for this. Give it a second to stabilize. This is a digitally controlled one. It's got a digital display with temperature. And as soon as it gets to the point when it gets warmed up, you can't run the suction on it until it's actually up to temperature and stable at that temperature. And sometimes it takes a minute or two. So I guess we're going to sit here for 2 minutes. The main thing is I had it turned on. It's just it went to sleep. So it's still stabilizing. I'd start singing, but y'all would quit watching. Alright, it says it's up to go and the pump is working. So I just slide the tip of this over the tip of it, let it melt. I'm going to rock it around a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and go in there a little bit more. Let's go to this one. Right like that. Okay. Now, that I like. Remember, black stripe was going this way. So, I'm going to verify the value. 1000 microfarad, 25. These right here are taped down and stuck in there pretty good. A lot of times you can just slide them out, but they're stuck pretty good. So I'm going to peel the tape back a little bit. Okay. So black stripe is going this way. In this case, it's a gray stripe. It is a little wider, so I'm going to catch it into this one. You just kind of bend it over and let it go to that one, and then I'm just kind of sit it down till it's comfortable like that. Flip the board over, and we'll solder this one in. good. I'll go ahead and cut the legs off. Careful when you're doing this. These sometimes can still be hot if you do it right afterwards. And I'm just going to put all the used ones in the container. Now, sometimes when I'm doing recapping, and in this case I don't really have to worry about it because I can obviously tell which ones I've changed. Some radios, especially when you have 30 of them on one board, and there's not a distinct change in the color, it's sometimes hard to tell which ones you've changed and which ones you haven't. So in that case, I usually take like a blue or a red permanent marker and I'll put a dot on them. I'm not going to do this in this case because it's very evident which ones I've already changed. So I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, let's go ahead and do another one right here. Looks like we're going to have to lift the legs on it again before we can suck it out. Oh, this might have been a little bit easier if I came in from the other direction. Just from the direction that they laid them. Just going to bend those up like that. And desolder them. Notice I'm kind of rocking the gun back and forth just a little bit. The reason why I'm doing that is so that when I'm sucking the solder out of there, it's moving that leg back and forth in the hole, so it'll suck the solder around it too. If I just put it down on there, keep it still, and just suck it out, there could be that leg being up against one side of the hole, and it might not suck the solder out of it. So you got a better chance of it actually getting all the solder out if you can rock it around. And don't forget, if you're using a solder gun, to kind of clean it up every once in a while too, and keep a little solder right on the tip of it just to keep it from oxidizing. And every once in a while you do have to clean the tip out on that thing. But let's see where we're going here. And let's see here. Right out. Remember, that was pointing down. See if this one will slide out. Yep. So we'll put the line down again on this one. And we'll solder this one in. Clean up my soldering iron a little bit. I like to keep my soldering iron nice and clean. Of course, if y'all look at this one, it's getting pretty close to needing to be replaced. It's starting to get pretty rough. Probably a couple times I might have gotten distracted doing something else and let it oxidize a bit. Starting to kind of eat into it, but that's okay. Now I am replacing some of this. These are kind of solder coated traces. Instead of having conformal coating over the top of the trace, it has solder on it. So I want to make sure I kind of replace that as well, just to keep the trace covered up. Let the solder protect it. I've noticed some of the older radios do that. It's got conformal coating on the board, but a lot of times the traces, you'll see they're all silver. that's oxidation that's on the top of that solder right there that's making it shinier. I don't know if you guys can tell that. Yep. But that's protecting the copper trace that's underneath there, or whatever the trace is made out of. Keeps it, you just get a layer of oxidation on the solder, which keeps the trace protected. All right, so let's do another one. We're going to do these two real quick. I'll go ahead and finish this board out real quick with y'all, and then I'm probably going to go ahead and get to pause the video or make the video. I don't know. I might cut the video right here. I don't know. But I'm basically going to be doing the same thing to each and every one of the boards as I pull them out, one at a time. I might even actually, once I get this board done, I might put it back in, install all the boards, and make sure the radio turns on. This is the regulator board, so if I, for some reason, don't got a good contact here or something, which I'm really doubting, there could be a problem. But don't just recap a whole radio is what I'm saying, and I might wait until I do another board, because I'm going to be pretty confident on this one. But don't recap a whole radio and then test it, see if it still works. If the radio was working before, and in this case, it was working, it was receiving, I hadn't tried transmit, but it was working, go to one board at a time, maybe two if there's not very many. I mean, this is only changing 5. And I'm being very careful to put them back in right. But when we get to the AF board, there's a lot. I'll just show you. It has quite a few capacitors in that AF board bag. It has more capacitors, and not just electrolytics. Remember, I'm going to change all the Mylars too. That one's going to take a while. I'm definitely going to make sure the radio works after I put all those back in. But don't just complete the whole radio and then turn it on, because if there is a problem, you can have a defined set point on where the radio worked. So I might do this one. I'll probably do like the noise blanker board next, because I think it's only got 1, maybe 2 capacitors on it. I'll put them back in, turn the radio on, make sure it's still working fine. Now I've got a set point there. I know after I did these, it still worked. If I wait till I finish the whole radio, turn it on, and it doesn't work, well, now I'm trying to troubleshoot, well, where did I go wrong? If I do it a board or 2 at a time, and it worked before and now it doesn't work, then I know it's on what I just worked on. Has to be the problem, instead of having to go through a whole radio. So let me go ahead and get these 2 out. And they've got some bent over legs as well. Just verifying once again that exactly which ones I want to do here. And I'm just going to go ahead and lift all 4 of these legs up real quick. Maybe. I think what I need to do is lock my holder in place a little bit better. Instead of trying to hold the board, the whole point of these things is to hold the board. Okay, let's see if we can desolder them now. ahead and run a cleaner through my tip real quick. I've done a few of these. I don't know how often I need to do it on this particular desoldering gun, but I really don't want this puppy clogging up. Alright. That's hot. Trying to do that without grabbing the one I just used. Yeah, that's going to leave a nice little mark right there. Let's go ahead and tin this again. So don't do that. It leaves nice little white marks across your skin and it starts to burn. Go ahead and pull these out. I'm really liking this whole desoldering gun. Remember, stripes were that way. Get our two new ones. So I would definitely suggest not grabbing hold of a 600 or 700 degree stick of metal. Kind of hurts. Get some of that sticky off of there. And get these soldered in. Trim our legs. Alright, and that's got our 5 replaced that we're going to replace on this board. These right here, I'm going to have to see if I can't find them and order them. They did not come in the kit. Like I said, there's at least one. Let's see if I can read these. Okay, so these two are 250 volt. And this one right here is 160 volt. I want to say this one's probably a 250 volt as well. Yeah, this one's a 200. So these three are 250 volt. That's a 160 volt one. I'll have to find those and get them ordered. I'll probably go ahead and order that one capacitor for the neutralizing. Just get one here just in case I need it. But this board is done for all intents and purposes at this point in time, so we'll go ahead and set it back in the radio. Pull this screw out of here. This is the one of the mounting screws. It was actually missing the other one that goes right here. I'm going to go ahead and pull out the blanker board. I'm going to go ahead and slide this one in here. I don't know, I got to get a little light, so this is probably going to jostle the camera a little bit. And hopefully that's not too bright, but I needed a little light. Get this lined up here. And seat it down in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and get this screw started in here so I don't lose it. Right there, this is the screw for this one. Like I say, I just got them. This ones that I have just sitting in here. I have the screws back in there. Don't want to lose them. Don't want to forget where they go. So, all right, and this is the noise blanker board. Let's go ahead and put it in here. Like I said, I think there's only one or two on this one. Looks like right here and right here. Let me find the regulator or the noise blanker board and the parts list. Looks like it's right here. Electrolytics looks like it's going to be 7 and 23. 1 microfarad at 16 working volts is the original. Get these out of the way. Go in here and find my regulator board baggie. IF, chassis, RF, spares, mixer board, modulator board, rectifier board. Noise blanker board. Well, of course, it's the last one in the bag besides the AF board, which I knew it wasn't. So there's, yep, 2 right there. Now let me get on the screen here, and we will find the noise blanker board on the in the manual. Let's see, audio. Got to scroll through this one here a little bit. Noise blanker. There's the board. There's the layout. And like I said just a moment ago, the noise blanker board we're looking at, and I'm going to go ahead and verify the number here. PB1292. It's PB1292. Electrolytics 7 and 23. It's basically sitting the same we have it on the board. So let's find 7 and 23. So here's 23. Just going right there. That's the wrong board. Look at that, PB1582. So we need to find if it's got the right. This one would be for the late model. So we got to find out if there's another board in here for the noise blanker. The old one. We want a 1292. Which I'm just going through this basically to show you kind of how you can do this. But the thing about it is I'm probably not going to worry too much about looking at the screen, because I can see the 2 that are on here. There's one right here, and there's one right there. And just by looking at them, they are 1 microfarad probably 16 volt. So we're going to remove this one and we're going to remove this one and we'll put the new ones in. But let's do them one at a time. First off, I'm staring at the stripe, just pointing up at you, so the stripe's that way. We'll want to make sure we put our new one in the same direction. So let's find that on the back side. Just do a little scoping out here. We got, so I'm kind of looking through this in a certain way. Let's see here. We've got this solder point kind of up here by itself, and then we got two. One's a resistor, one's the other end of this diode, and then we got the capacitor. So 1, 2, and capacitor is the way it should be. So we're going to pull these two out right here. Remember, stripe was that way. Stripe. That way. Through the hole, through the hole. Seat it down. And we'll solder it in. Trim the legs. Alright, now let's see if we can't find that other one. And let's see here. Yep, 1 microfarad, that's a 50 volt. And we're trying to replace them with 1 microfarad, 50 volts. See, I should have checked that before, huh? But I got away with it. So this one right here, this one might be a little hard to find, a little harder to find, especially since I think it's underneath this cap right here. No, let's see here. We do have a transformer housing, so it's got to be this one. Sometimes hunting these can be a little fun. Because I don't really want to pull the wrong one off. Let's get a could be these two. Let's find a different mark. Okay, so it should be in line with this tooth here. So I'm fairly confident it's those two right there. Let me back this up just a moment. Got two right there and then that one. Fairly confident it's these two right here. See if we can get those out of there. If it's the wrong ones, guess what? We'll just solder it back in. Get that in the hole. I believe it's this one. Well, a capacitor just fell out. I guess it was the right one. one little question. Don't remember exactly which way that was facing. So we're going to have to figure that one out. Follow through to... Well, let's find out. We'll look at the schematic real quick, and we can find out which way that was in there. The one towards that side of the board looks like it's kind of going to a ground plane, and it's going to pin 2, which may or may not be grounded. Better be grounded, unless it's got a negative voltage on it, because that's also going over here to the chassis ground. So it should have been in there like this, right like that, which looks about right. Yep, I'm going to go with confidence on that one, just because this pinhole is running over to the ground side. So unless it's got a negative voltage on it right there, which I don't believe it does, it should be that direction. If it doesn't work and it goes pow, I guess I'm going to have to replace it again, huh? So let's put this one in the way we're guessing. But like I said, pay attention to which way your capacitors are in there. I really wasn't expecting it to fall out that easy, but it did. So definitely take note. Look before you leap. Let's get this puppy soldered in there. Real quick, let's that should be C7. Should be C7 on the noise blanker board. I'll probably, before I put this, install it and take a look, I'll pull the schematic and try to make sure that I get that one right there in the right spot, that I got it the right orientation. It's C7 on the noise blanker. I can look at the schematic, and it should tell me which way it needs to go on that. It'll probably take me a few minutes to kind of search through everything, especially since I got to find the noise blanker portion on the schematic. Let's see if I can see that. Buffer, beautiful noise blanker unit 1292 C7. Yeah, it goes down to ground plane. Like I was saying before. I doubt you're going to be able to see this. The C7 on the noise blanker board, and that actually matches our number 1292 right there. We do have C7 is right here is electrolytic. One side going to the transformer. Looks like the transformer, and down to looks like the noise blanker on off switch. So it's probably filtering, power filtering for the noise blanker unit, and then of course, yep, the goes over to a variable, and it also goes over to the transformer. On the positive side, and that is going through 6. So it should connect to pin 6 on the positive side. Pin 6 is this one. Yep. And it goes right to the positive side of that capacitor. The other side does go to ground according to the schematic. So we did get that one in the correct way. So that's just kind of showing you how I'm going to go through all these boards. This one's done. It's the two that we needed to replace. I'm going to go ahead and continue working on some of the other boards. It's getting, it's not too late at night tonight. I'll probably work for a couple hours or something, changing out some of these boards. I'll probably do some tests in between, just make sure the radio's still working. But right now I'm just doing the electrolytics. I'm probably going to save the AF board for last as far as boards, because while I'm on there, I might as well change the electrolytics and change the mylars at the same time, and that one's going to take quite a bit of work. It's a pretty crowded board, and it's going to take a lot of back and forth changing them. So I'm going to go ahead and start working on these. Go ahead and end the video on here, but that's kind of what the plan is right now. That's basically the first two boards started, and probably the two easiest boards. I haven't looked at too many of the other ones, but I think there's a couple of them that only just have one. The chassis is going to be fun. Just because you can't pull it out and work on here. I mean, actually you have to be on the radio itself working on that one. But there's the procedure I'm going to use. Just going to go through there and change all the electrolytics out one board at a time, and probably do some tests, just to make sure everything's still working between every board, every couple of boards, until I get done. But I just kind of wanted to show you the process I'm going to use. And with the desoldering gun, I think this is going to go a lot easier. I mean, like that last one I just did, soldered gunned it, and it literally fell out. So definitely need to make sure, I've learned 2 lessons on this one when using a desoldering gun. Make sure you definitely check your orientation of your capacitors, and after you clean it, don't grab a hold of the cleaning pin and lay it across your fingers. Yeah, not sure y'all can tell, but that's that white line right there is charcoal or ashy skin now, which has finally kind of quit hurting, but that's okay. No pain, no gain when working on old radios. We'll go ahead and cut it loose here. Thanks for stopping by. Go ahead and subscribe if you'd like to, and give me a like if you like the video. And we'll see you next time. Bye for now.